I remember early on I had a mug of this design with this shirt, and for many years that was as close as I came to owning this shirt. So to eventually get this one in person was pretty special. Hello and a warm welcome back to Phil's Corner. It's good to be chatting to you today, and old time viewers might have recognised the intro music. There's a bit of nostalgia as we kick things off today in this episode, and today is a fun one because I'm going to be showing you the top 10 most expensive shirts in my collection. I've gone through my collection and picked out what I think are the top 10 most expensive shirts. I'm going to show you guys those shirts, of course, show some pictures and talk about how I got them. It's actually quite interesting when I was going through and looking at the shirts, the different ways that those shirts came to my collection. Some of them I bought for a fair bit of money from other collectors or from a retail store. Others were cheaper pickups on eBay or places like that. So it should be a fun one. Lots to talk about, lots to get stuck into. And we'll also have a bit of a Q&A today. I'm going to answer a selection of questions that you guys left on my last video. But before we go any further, I will remind you to subscribe to the channel. Why should you subscribe to the channel? Well, there are going to be many more videos like this in the coming months. We're going to be doing videos on collecting football kits, talking about what's happening in the modern kit game, looking at some great classic kits and talking about kit histories from certain teams and brands. And there's going to be lots of good football shirt content, all for your enjoyment. If you subscribe, you will find out when those videos go live first. And of course, you can also keep up to date with my live streams. I stream once a week now, and again, there's a bit of variety there. We're going on eBay to find shirts, we're ranking football shirts on our giant tier list called the Hot Wall. So lots of stuff which you can get involved in here. Be sure to subscribe and you will have some good content coming your way. And alongside what we're doing here on YouTube, I also have a Patreon, and this is the place where you can support me as a creator and you get a range of benefits too. The biggest one by far being the free shirt that you get, the shirt that you get as part of your support at any tier. I'll just show the shirt now, I've got it next to me. I'm going to keep showing this one off because I absolutely love it. And here it is, the shirt that I designed with Icarus. You can see their logo there at the top. An absolutely mad design, a design which really pops in terms of colour in person. And I'm really proud of it, really happy with how it came out. Again, I've showed this off before, so I won't spend too much time. But this is the shirt you can get as a supporter on Patreon. Details are in the description, and alongside this shirt, again, I'll show you the kind of things you can get as part of the giveaways we do over on Patreon. Shirts such as this fantastic Monaco kit, this is part of the next round of giveaways on Patreon. I'm also going to be giving away one of the latest copies of Glory magazine. I've got a copy of that one which is a focus on San Diego Loyal, so it's a really great edition, and anyone who's read Glory Mag will know how good that is. So this shirt, the magazine, and of course future months of giveaways, it's all coming, guys. It's all happening, and if you join the Patreon, you'll be a part of that. There's other benefits too. Again, check out the link in the description. But now let's jump to a bit of Q&A. You guys have some great questions at the start of the last video. I'm going to answer a bunch of them now. We'll start with this question from Arjam, who says, "Hey Phil, how do you deal with buyer's guilt when it comes to purchasing shirts, in terms of the obsession of always wanting something new?" I think this is a really good question, and this could probably be a video in and of itself, because that sort of guilt that you're describing there, Arjam, is something which I think we've all experienced, or we will experience as collectors. It's a complicated feeling. There's sometimes an element of, when you buy a shirt, thinking, did I really need that? Did I actually need to spend that money? And when it arrives, you kind of have that regret sometimes. Or similarly, there's also that kind of FOMO. I've always needed something new, like you mentioned there, seeing a shirt online and seeing maybe a really good deal and thinking, this is my only chance I can get this shirt, or this might be the best chance to get a particular shirt. Feelings of simply needing to buy a shirt just to kind of stay in on the action, be a part of the community. So I think the first step is to recognise that these feelings are quite common, they're quite normal. Actually, I would say it's a very good thing to talk about them, to ask for advice. And indeed, I've learned so much over the years from other people, and I hope I can share a little bit myself with you. So just a few thoughts that come to mind immediately. One of them would be that I think it's really important to be willing and ready to walk away. And by that I mean, when it comes to shirts, and particularly when you're online, when you're part of these communities that we have on Twitter and Instagram and on YouTube, etc., be ready and willing to walk away even from a good deal. There are always going to be deals. We're coming up to Black Friday soon. You're going to see some incredible deals. I'll probably be sharing some myself, and you'll get a lot of deals from different places. Just because you see a good deal doesn't mean you have to get it. At the end of the day, even if a shirt is 50, 60, 70% or more off, ultimately football shirts are not necessary. They're not a necessity. They're not an essential. If you're on a budget, no matter what size budget, you should never have the approach of feeling like you need to get a shirt just because it's a good deal. And even if, let's say, you're a collector of a particular club, let's say you collect Boca Juniors shirts, like I do a bit. I do like to collect Boca Juniors shirts. Sometimes you see a good deal on a Boca Juniors shirt, and actually, even though it might be a good deal, because of other things you might have spent in the month, or simply because you don't just want to buy everything you see, I've had to sometimes say, I won't buy that. I'll save that for another month maybe, or just simply let someone else get that deal. And I think that kind of attitude, it's a difficult one to kind of cultivate, to kind of grow, but I would definitely encourage that. And I think that approach is really healthy, because when you're willing to walk away, it means that when you do see deals, you're in a better position, because maybe if you've walked away 4, 5, 6 times, whatever it might be, the 7th deal that you see will be one which you can more kind of readily think about, and actually your budget will be healthier. You'll be in a position where you might actually be able to pick up the shirt rather than always snapping up every deal you see, and then all of a sudden you start chasing your tail. You then look at a shirt that you really want, but you've spent a lot of money already, and there's things like that which can really spiral. So that's one thought. Another thing which I really do encourage, and I personally do a lot in my collecting, is I often sell shirts to buy shirts. And quite simply, when it comes to my collection, I've got quite a fluid approach to it. And for a lot of shirts, probably 90% of shirts that I collect, I know that I'll be willing to move on and sell that shirt to help fund future purchases. Now, sometimes when I sell those shirts in my collection, I don't make a profit on them. And actually, it's quite often, most of the time, probably 3/4 of the time, if I'm selling a shirt, I'm not actually looking to make any profit or any significant profit. And that's okay. And I think particularly for kind of newer shirts, of course, there's very few modern shirts, new shirts in the last couple of years, which will grow in value, at least in the short term. There are exceptions to that. We'll talk a bit about that in our list that we're going to go through in today's video. But I think one of the benefits of this approach, again, when it comes to budgeting particularly, is that you are not just spending and always kind of draining from your budget, but actually you're putting a lot of money back in. By selling shirts, you're helping to also kind of manage the size of your collection. So again, if you're just only buying and buying and buying, there's just a practical aspect of running out of wardrobe space, hanger space, storage space. Some people really frown on the idea of selling shirts, and I'd actually really push back against that. Because of course, yes, there are people who do take advantage of situations. They'll buy shirts and immediately try and flip them. You've probably heard that term of kind of flipping and that kind of approach, which can be done in a very negative way and can affect people quite negatively. But as long as you're making sure that you're selling at a reasonable price, I didn't see anything wrong with that. And I'd even say, this is perhaps a controversial take, if you buy a shirt, say a new shirt, you photograph it, you share some pictures on social media, and then you're selling it a couple of months later, I didn't see anything wrong with that personally. At the end of the day, if you've spent that money and you then want to move on for the shirt, that's okay. Again, that's probably a subject for another video. This is certainly a topic, and that question I think is really useful. RJam, you guys know me, I could ramble on about this for a lot longer, but there's a couple of thoughts there. Please do follow up if any of you guys have questions on these kind of things that we talked about. Stick them in the comments of this video, and at the start of the next one, I can talk about this more. And maybe we'll do a full video a bit about this sort of thing. Another really good question here from JML SA, who says, I love the Icarus kit. Thank you very much, JML. And follows up saying, what's your reaction to the latest Spark Academy video on the rise of fake shirts? Who's to blame and how will it affect collecting in future? Firstly, shout out to Spark Academy. The work they are doing is absolutely top tier. Rob and Craig and the team at Spark do a great job of diving really deep into subjects, getting other people involved, other experts and collectors, and they've been a huge breath of fresh air in the community. Of course, they offer unparalleled insight with their design experience, and it's just been really good to see their videos. I really enjoy them. They're certainly some of the best videos you get on football shirts, so shout out to them you obviously should subscribe to them, although I'm sure you are if you are watching this video. I can't do this subject justice in a minute or two just speaking now, but what I will say is that I do not think brands are adapting fast enough. They're not moving fast enough to what we are seeing in the fake industry. Of course, fake shirts have been around for a long time now, but they are better than ever in terms of quality, and more people are simply buying them for different reasons. Of course, one of the biggest ones is quite an understandable one, and the guys mentioned this in their video. Just the cost of a shirt, a replica shirt for a young person or child, is incredibly expensive. If you've got a family, it's simply not a good use of your money to be spending 3 figures on a kit which your kids will grow out of very quickly. And I think of all the ways the rising cost of football shirts has impacted just everyday people, families are hit the most, they're hit the worst. And that has certainly been, I would say, the biggest driving factor in the rise of fakes. So I think one of the biggest things which the guys mentioned in the video over at Spark is brands need to look at extending kit life cycles in some way, shape or form. If you had home kits lasting for 2 seasons, that's just an immediate way which would help fans, and it would just be a simple move. And you know, you can still release away third special edition kits, I think, during a season. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I actually do think, despite some sustainability concerns around the number of kits for a team in any given season, I do think there's a lot of scope for brands to continue to make revenue and make money by selling new kits. But when it comes to home shirts, I really think that's such a simple but effective move, which as soon as Adidas or Nike, one of the big guys, do it, others will follow. It's a good PR move. Really, one of the big brands just needs to take a step forward and do it. And they'll benefit from that. Again, and I think it would be positive for everyone involved. I think the other thing which I really would expect or want brands to do is to think more about their price points for replica kits, and potentially introducing a tier of kits which are a bit cheaper than your typical replica. Now this would have its negatives. I think introducing a new tier inherently would create conversation, and rightly so, conversation around why you need to have a replica, a player spec, and potentially a third tier, a cheaper tier. We've heard these called basic shirts before. Some clubs and brands have done this before, but I think the benefit of having a basic tier shirt is that you could have something in the kind of £30 to £40 range, which would still be officially licensed. We'll maybe be missing some of the details like sponsors and kind of inside neck details. And I would actually say something like the current MLS replica kits are a good example of this. Now this is again a huge topic, but I've talked a lot about this before. MLS replica kits are missing key details, things like collars and cuff details and stars above crest, things like that. And the MLS charge a lot of money for them. For the replica MLS shirts, you're paying replica prices. But I think if you saw, say, a Premier League club release a basic tier shirt, which again would be like those MLS replicas, missing quite a few details but still be in the shirt, that kind of price point, £30, sits nicely. It's around what you pay for kind of a retro remake, and I think it would again be another way of helping, particularly for fans of clubs who aren't necessarily interested in those intricate details that people like you and me are as collectors of shirts. Again, a huge topic, a lot more that could be said. There are pros and cons to that idea. But yeah, brands aren't moving quick enough. There is too much which is passing brands by, I would say. And just the sheer rise of fakes really is a problem. It is a problem for people. And you mentioned in your question, Jamie, about how this might affect collecting. I think the biggest thing is for you guys watching to keep up to date with the latest when it comes to fakes that you're seeing in the market. Make sure you know how to spot a fake. Of course, there's a lot of good resources online. I've written a lot of articles, but yeah, make sure you keep up to date because the quality of fakes is so good that I'm having to constantly check myself. And sometimes, even recently, I've been caught out. You do have to have your wits about you. Ultimately, fake shirts have no resale value, no matter how good they might look. So you do not want to get stung by one. You do not want to buy one unknowingly. Yeah. Much to be said about fakes, but we'll move on for time's sake. But thank you for your question, JML. Let's do one more question. I don't want to spend too much more time. We've had a couple of meaty topics here. Brock asks, what has been your favourite shirt to design so far? This is an easy one. It has to be the Red Star FC shirt. It's coming up to a year since I was in Paris with Red Star and Kappa and Fiverr. And that whole experience was just a dream come true. It really was. I shared my thoughts in a video which I'll link above me, talking about the trip and what I got up to, and sharing some pictures of that trip to Paris. But just that whole experience was incredible. It was a huge confidence boost for me. Seeing the response to the design, and I think the biggest thing which I mentioned, which really kind of was the pinch me moment, the moment which I really will remember forever, was seeing fans in the club shop behind the shirt. We were there for some promo. We were filming some interviews and stuff just next to the club shop. And as soon as the shop opened, there was a little queue, and people were going in, buying the shirt, partying with their hard-earned money to get this shirt. And seeing Red Star fans take on the design, enjoy the design, really was special. You know, it was one thing to win the competition, and that, of course, was incredible. But to see that moment, to see fans buying the shirt, and of course the team wearing it on the pitch, they won in the game. The whole thing was just a dream. It was amazing. I don't know how I'm ever going to top that, but it's certainly given me some motivation to try and basically be a football shirt designer full time. That is my longer term ambition. There's a long way to go before I get there, if I do. But that competition was, I think, the springboard for many things, and it was just a really fun process. The shirt is one I'm really proud of. So that's got to be my favourite book, but of course I hope I can come back with some new answers in the coming years. A reminder that if you leave a question in the comments of today's video, I will answer a bunch of them at the start of the next one. But let's get to this list. Before we jump into this list, a bit of background, a bit of context here. I've tried to basically pick out the most expensive shirts in my collection, and in many ways I've just been pricing these myself, trying to look online, doing that process of basically trying to buy the shirt for myself and seeing if I can find it online. Many of the prices in here might fluctuate, and indeed I'd really love to hear from you guys. If you see something in this list and you think, man, that is actually a lot cheaper, or that is a lot more expensive even, it's always good to get that sort of feedback. But I've tried to price these as what I would expect to find the shirt for available online. Also, not taking into account condition as much, because again, that can really change the price. And just for simplicity's sake, we're assuming that the shirts here are excellent, minimal defects and things like that. But of course we will be taking into account things like printing, if the shirt has printing, etc. But yeah, I basically kind of picked out 10 shirts which I think are the most expensive. I'll talk you through them. I've also got a handful of shirts which are honourable mention, shirts which didn't quite make the top 10, and I'll just rattle through them quickly now, starting with this fantastic New York Metro style shirt. I really like this one with the very thick material. 97 shirts are great. I'd estimate that one to be around 150 if it was online. Similarly, we've got this great special edition Parma shirt. Now these were heavily limited in number. And just a quick note on special edition shirts, if they do have serialization, numbering, which is on a patch or on the shirt in some way, that really does help with value. A lot of special edition shirts say they're special edition, but they're actually sold in the thousands, tens of thousands even. That value is a lot more limited compared to something like this, which wasn't widely available. This one, again, I would estimate around 150, possibly more. Certainly one I was happy to add to my collection. I also have two of the Boca Juniors Mercosur Cup shirts. You definitely would have seen these, I'm sure, in your travels. I absolutely love these designs. Very typical late 90s looks from Nike, and I love the fact that you do have the home, away and third variants. I need to add the away, that's the one I'm missing in my collection. But those, I'd say maybe around 175. The home is certainly more available as opposed to the away and thirds, which are a little bit more hard to find. But again, they clock in around, I'd say 170 kind of pounds, around that kind of range. Also, one of the best Liverpool shirts of all time, perhaps the best Liverpool shirt of all time, the 1989 home shirt from Liverpool. This is actually a really interesting one, because this is the kind of shirt where if you see it online at a retailer, it's often on for kind of 250, even 300 pounds in a good size and good condition. But that is a huge markup. You can actually find these shirts for much cheaper online. And I'd always encourage you, particularly for these more popular shirts like the Bruised Banana or the Snowflake shirt for United, shirts which have kind of their own reputational aura around them. Do check out places like eBay, or go to social media and look at what people are selling online. In many ways, again, you do have a bit of a markup when you see these shirts, these types of shirts on retailers, because they know they can afford to charge more. And indeed, like if I was to give a price on a good condition 1989 Liverpool, I'd say it's probably around the kind of 175 mark again, which is much cheaper than what you typically find it from a big retailer. You can even get it cheaper. To be honest, you can find those shirts for much cheaper if you're willing to kind of play the eBay game. But yeah, that's another shirt which just missed out. And finally, another shirt which is in the similar kind of bucket to the Liverpool shirt, the fantastic USA 94 shirt, the 1994 away shirt, which does have a little bit of staining on the front there, but you can see this is just an icon, an absolute stone cold classic, which people, even if they don't know anything about football shirts, can enjoy. This denim inspired starry look from Adidas for the United States. Again, if you go and try and find this from a retailer, you could be looking at quite a lot of money, and I'd estimate this one similar to the kind of Candy Liverpool shirt range, something around 175 would be my price estimate. Again, it's missed out on my top 10, but I did want to mention them on because it is a real classic. But let's get now to number 10 on this list, which is the Corinthians Ayrton Senna shirt. Now again, as you've already seen, I've got a lot of my shirts in these plastic wallets. I'm going to keep some of them in the plastic wallets simply because I don't want to spend too much time taking them out and putting them back in, and we've got a lot of shirts to get through. But this shirt is one of the few relatively modern shirts on this list. The vast majority of shirts in this top 10 are vintage, as you'd expect, but I absolutely love this Corinthians shirt. And what really makes this one special and more expensive is the fact that it's actually the player spec or the player issue version, which wasn't widely available. It wasn't easily attainable, and even the replica version of this shirt was quite hard to get in the UK. I had a fellow collector who helped me out, who had a friend basically in Brazil who was able to buy the shirt and send it on, and I got it for a really good price. I'd estimate this one to be around 175. Again, I've mentioned that number a few times. That's kind of my estimate for this particular shirt. Maybe even 200, but it's kind of around that price range. It's certainly not easy to find as a player spec shirt. You will all know this one, guys, I'm sure. It is the one which was inspired heavily by, I believe it was the Lotus car that Ayrton Senna used to drive in the earlier part of his career, the black and gold. This is one of the early black and gold shirts. I think what really makes this one quite cool, actually, in hindsight, is it did help kick off the black and gold phase, the black and gold trend, which is still going on. This is one I'm not going to sell anytime soon. I really think it captures one of the best stories of shirts we've seen in the last few years. Again, that connection with Ayrton Senna. There's so many nice details. You can just about see the start, or the end I should say, of an inside net detail there. And again, having this one in the player spec really does add another level of enjoyment. So that is number 10 on the list, the Corinthians Senna shirt as a player issue. Beautiful start to proceedings. Coming in at number 9 on the list, we have this memorable Dortmund shirt from the 1994 season. This is the away shirt from that year in long sleeves, and there's a couple of things which I think really make this one quite special. One, it is from the classic Drake Ramberg era, the 1990s Dortmund shirts, which are so famous and so beloved around the collecting world, and indeed they really do stand up, I think, in many ways. From a design perspective, they have so many nice touches, and indeed this was the era where shirts were really starting to get quite bold in terms of designs, and certainly the Nike Dortmund shirts are the epitome, I would say, of this era. It's really cool having this one as a long sleeve as well, because I think having it in long sleeves, you get that wonderful pattern, the eagle wing pattern along the sleeves. It looks great. I'll share a picture on screen so you can see that, and it's a great shirt. And again, in terms of kind of collectability, I think these Dortmund shirts have so much going for them. If you've got a shirt from this era, a Dortmund shirt from this era, you're onto a winner. This away version is a bit harder to find than the home, hence why this is on the list. I do have the home version, but that one actually didn't make the top 10. This is a shirt I'd estimate to be around £200. Certainly for a long sleeve version of this away shirt. That's my kind of thinking for price. It's a great design, it really is. Peak 90s, and I love the grey colour, the silver colour. It's a really nice kind of contrast to the luminous yellow of the home shirts. Coming in at number 8, quite appropriately, we have this Spurs shirt, this Tottenham shirt, which is from the 1989 season. This is the home shirt for Tottenham. A brilliant design from my favourite manufacturer, Hummel. It's got all the trimmings that you love to see on a late 80s, early 90s design. The jacquard is absolutely spectacular. That pattern that you can see in the body of the shirt just looks great. It's got all the nice old school felt applications which look great, and actually the condition of this one is pretty good considering the age. Only 1 or 2 blemishes. The chevrons are there looking great. We've even got the little Football League patch, so all the good stuff you like to see. The number is certainly as well perhaps the highlight. That style is very retro. Look at the Hummel logo there at the bottom. Brilliant stuff. And this shirt with a number on the back, I would estimate to be around £225. That's kind of the ballpark figure I'd say for this. One of the great things about this shirt, I simply found it on eBay. And indeed, I forgot to mention it, the Dortmund shirt before was another eBay pickup. So eBay is great, guys. The fact that you can get shirts like this at really competitive prices, it's just excellent. And if you were to see this shirt again from a retailer, you're paying a lot more than £225, probably. But that's kind of the market price, I would say, for this one. It's great, and it's one of those iconic Spurs shirts. If you are a Spurs fan or a Spurs collector, this is one you simply have to have in your collection. I'm not a Spurs collector, so I will probably be selling this one soon, I would say. But yeah, I love this one, and it's certainly one of the more valuable ones I own. And it really is, I think, one of the ones you have to see in person to truly appreciate. Now, number 7 is an interesting one, because this is a shirt which I picked up at a charity auction, and you see many of these charity auctions online. The funny thing about them, and I forget the name of the company, I think it was Charity Stars or something like that, they'll often auction these shirts as match-worn shirts. And the problem is, in the case of a lot of these places like Charity Stars, they don't have any proof of these shirts being worn in the match. So actually, for all intents and purposes, I would treat a shirt like this as more of a kind of player spec shirt, a player spec value, without necessarily thinking of it as a match-worn shirt. Because without proof, in many ways, you shouldn't really be able to charge much more. Now, why am I saying all that? Well, this shirt is a really nice shirt. This is a long sleeve, 2003, I believe, Parma shirt with Hidetoshi Nakata on the back, Nakata's name and number. And it's a really nice design. It's got so many nice details. I'll show some close-ups on screen now. The price of this one, I would estimate to be around £250. Now, if this was 100% a match-worn shirt, we'll be looking at a lot more. I think certainly at least £100 more, maybe even more than that. But it's not one, again, which I would ever want to sell as a match-worn shirt, given the fact that there isn't any kind of proof of that. And I'm not big on the match-worn market. Of course, the fact that we've got shirts at this kind of price range in my top 10 shows that I'm not dealing with a lot of match-worn shirts. But this is undoubtedly one of my favourite shirts, even though there is the ambiguity around whether it was actually worn on pitch by Nakata. It's a great design though, and I think Parma shirts have always stood out to me. It's that blue and yellow, blue and gold, and the Boca Juniors thing. I think more and more I realise that I just keep gravitating towards this colour scheme. Great shirt, and again, even though it might not be match worn, there is a bit of confusion around that. I was quite happy the price I paid for it at the charity auction, and certainly again, one of my favourites, and that is number 7 on my top 10 most expensive shirts. Now, even though this shirt is number 6 on this top 10, it is probably my favourite shirt in the collection. I think this particular shirt, this Boca Juniors 1986 away shirt, is one I often go to when people ask me, what's your favourite shirt of all time? There's something really special to me about seeing that famous Germany design, the Germany 1988 design, in Boca Juniors colours. I absolutely love it. I think it's something about seeing that classic Boca Juniors formula of the gold band in between the blue, which is used, of course, in the Adidas design, the famous Adidas design. The way it comes across the body there is such a beautiful shirt, especially in long sleeves. I love the way the pattern goes on the back of this one. This is a great template, certainly one of the best designs of all time. But to see it in Boca Juniors colours, it's extra special. There's a couple of variations of this one. I own 2 of them. I own this one, and there's also one of the Fiat variants. There's another version which I'd love to add to my collection. And I love this. It's such a beautiful shirt. This is certainly, again, one of my favourites, and one which I really had to kind of pinch myself when I got this and saw this in person. And every time I had this one in my hands, I can't stop smiling. It is an absolutely gorgeous piece of design. The trefoil logo there, sitting neatly. It's brilliant. In terms of price, this one is something which I would say is around kind of $275. That would be my estimate. for this one. They're not as rare or as expensive as some shirts, and even though this is one of my favourite shirts of all time, if not my most favourite shirt of all time, you can find these on the market. They do pop up from time to time. Of course, if you're looking for a particular version, say you're looking for the Fiat version as opposed to this one, and there's another version, as I say, which I don't own, which I'm looking for, you might be looking at a bit more money, but kind of under 300 you should be able to find one of these online. I love it. I love it in long sleeves. It is just a beautiful kit to look at, and the colours are just perfect. Absolutely great stuff from Adidas and Pocket Juniors. That is number 6 on my top 10 list. Kicking off our top 5 is this brilliant Fiorentina shirt, which has a bit of a hidden story, and I shared this in one of my first videos. I think in fact it might have been my first video, I think, talking about Fiorentina. I can't remember now, but back in the day we talked about this shirt and showed you the fact that underneath this giant 7up logo is the original sponsor. This is actually the 1991 shirt, I think it was. There were a bunch of shirts from this season which were kind of badged up or updated to have the 7up sponsor, and it's a huge sponsor which looks great. It looks really cool on the shirt. Of course, Fiorentina shirts have so much about them, and there's something to be said particularly about the Fiorentina shirts that have the 7up sponsor or the Nintendo sponsors. We'll get onto one of those very shortly. This is another long sleeve shirt. Again, a lot of the shirts in this top 10 are long sleeve. Long sleeve shirts are pretty much always worth more than short sleeve, and I particularly like them. I like wearing them as long sleeves, but I love this kit. And again, the kind of hidden story is a really fun one. For time's sake I won't get this out and show you, but it's a great shirt. And indeed, Fiorentina shirts have so much collectability, a bit like Dortmund that we talked about before. They're one of those teams which I think you can often go back to and just really enjoy from a kit perspective. That colour is iconic, the rich purple, and again complemented so well, I think, with this giant sponsor. It's not a subtle sponsor in any way. It's very thick, it doesn't actually move very well, and it's not the most comfortable to wear, but it is certainly a kit which I think has stood the test of time. Price wise, I think you're looking at something around 300 for this one. I think because this particular shirt again wasn't easy to find with this 7up sponsor. They're quite rare. I think some people have even suggested they might be that these were player issue shirts, the fact that they did have this sponsor, but that hasn't been confirmed to me, and I don't think it's the case because I have seen these available. I don't think they're that rare, but I might be wrong on that. If you have any intel, of course, do share in the comments. And this is actually the first of 2 Fiorentina shirts in this top 5, because at number 4 on our list we have the Fiorentina 1997 design. Now, we all know and love the Fiorentina Nintendo shirts. This particular version doesn't get as much airtime, as much love as the shirt from the following season, 1998, but I actually think this one was even better, the 97 design. But I really like the use of gold in this one. You can see the gold which goes along the sleeves. It forms a lovely pattern on the sleeves. It really contrasts well. It complements the rest of the kit, which is just an absolute stunner. Headlined by the Nintendo sponsor. Price wise, I'd estimate this one to be around £325. Something like £325 for a long sleeve version of this kit, I would say is pretty reasonable. I got this one from a fellow collector. I bought this from a collector a couple of years ago, so I spent a bit of money again on this one. And I forgot to mention again, the 7up shirt was actually one I got on eBay, so you can see there's a kind of combination. A lot of the shirts I picked up from eBay, some of them like this I bought from a collector or even from a retailer online. But I think having this one in long sleeve is a real treat. It's an absolutely stunning design. The Nintendo sponsor, of course, is the headline, and sponsors can almost by themselves really increase value in shirts. The famous sponsors, video game sponsors especially, food and drink sponsors, can elevate a shirt. These kind of companies which we see out and about and we know and love outside of football can actually add a lot to the value of a shirt. And of course the kind of mainstream appeal is very high. So there's something to be said about that. I think that really does help kind of prop up the value of a shirt over time. And that's why I think I'd be quite comfortable kind of listing this one around $325, that kind of price range, if it was a long sleeve and in good size and condition. But I love this one of my favourites. Another one which I definitely won't be parting with anytime soon, if at all. That is number 4. So we've got a top 3 now to come. Let's see what we've got. In third place is this fantastic Wales shirt, the 1984 Wales shirt. There's a funny story to this one. I actually got this from the Adidas store, believe it or not. in Paris. I stumbled in, as you do, to these kind of brand stores. You don't expect to find anything, do you, at a good price, unless there's a good sales section maybe. But this was in the section of vintage shirts, which are all priced very competitively, so much so that I actually think this one really slipped through the cracks. Trying to find this one online, I would estimate this to be worth around £350, something like this, if it was in good condition. Now there is a bit of damage on this particular one, but it's not too bad, all things considered. But yeah, this is one of the most sought after Wales shirts. It's one which many people are often on the lookout for, and to find an original is quite difficult. But regardless of the value, whatever it might be, it is one of my favourite shirts in terms of, again, that kind of classic Adidas style of the 80s. It's got everything you want to see from that era. It's a timeless look, the kind of look which wouldn't look out of place on the terraces. That is number 3 on the list. Number 2 on this list is a really special one. This is a shirt which I only could have dreamt of owning when I started collecting. In fact, I remember early on I had a mug of this design with this shirt, and for many years that was as close as I came to owning this shirt. So to eventually get this one in person was pretty special. And just seeing it now, again, it is such a classic design. I'll show you some pictures so you can get some of those juicy details. This is, again, long sleeve, a big theme of this top 10. Also with a wonderful number on the back in a retro style, the number 10. But just brilliant. This is the 1996, I believe, European away shirt, which I don't think was even worn in a competitive game. But both the home and the away European shirts, cup shirts of this year, are really sought after, really desirable, and I absolutely love this one. This one I would estimate to be around £375. That's kind of the price range I'd expect to find this for, if not maybe a little bit more. But to me, it's priceless. It's certainly one of my favourites, and it's actually the one I wore on my brief appearance on a BBC Breakfast, so a little bit of extra meaning there for me, but just a great shirt. It really is. It's got such an interesting sponsor incorporation, the way the D Continental logo is incorporated with the stripes. I love the little pops of luminous yellow, the neon streaks of yellow that you get in the couple of details that are in that colour. And of course it's got the jacquard, it's got the pattern in the body. This one having the Champions League patch is really nice as well. I got this from an online retailer, so I paid a bit of money for this one, but I'm very happy to still have this one in my collection. I'm a bit of a Nike fanboy, so that's why we've got a few Nike shirts on this top 10. But yeah, love this one, and that is the second most expensive shirt in my collection. But the thing is, you've actually been looking at the most expensive shirt in my collection for the past 20-30 minutes. It is right behind me, because of course, the most expensive shirt in my collection is this limited edition South Korea shirt, the Total 90 boxed edition. Now, what's really special about this one is that this is actually one of the rarer versions, or the rarer box T90 shirts. There was a few different teams, a few of the major teams, countries that Nike were working with that got these special edition shirts. This is one of 2,500. Some of the other editions, I believe, were one of 5,000. There are actually some which were even more limited, some which are one of, I think, 1,000 or one of 500. I forget now, I think it was possibly the Mexico one was rarer. But anyway, these shirts are really hard to find, and they're just so special. The box itself is amazing. It's this kind of thick plastic, which has got a little blurb here on the front, which talks about the kit, talks about the Total 90 technology, and a bit about Ji-sung Park, whose name, of course, is on this one. This is individually numbered, and again, I'll show some close-ups so you can see what's inside this. I won't bother taking this one out in this particular video, but I found this on eBay, guys. I found this on eBay, and it was a real bargain. I got this for way under what I'd expect to find this. These are very hard to come by, and indeed, because it's the South Korea shirt, this is even more hard to find than, say, the Netherlands shirt or the Brazil shirt, which are still just as beautiful, and I'd still say they're just as good to collect. Price-wise, it's really hard to find prices for this. I think if I was to find this online, I'd estimate this to be around £600, which is a lot of money, but you simply just do not find these usually online. Now, of course, as I mentioned at the top of the video, I am estimating all these prices, so if you found this for much cheaper more recently, do let me know. Or indeed, if you've bought a Box T90 shirt or you own a Box T90 shirt, I'd love to hear from you how you got hold of it. But I really think these are special. This is the jewel of my collection. This is the shirt which I think for me speaks to me on many levels. The fact that it has this wonderful box, this wonderful presentation is really cool, but I think just the T90 shirts in general, the Toto 90 shirts are really nostalgic for me personally. That was the era when I was really into football, watching a lot of football, and I have a lot of love for the template and for this era. So really cool kit, really special kit in my collection, one which I will never part with, I don't think. And I think just having the box, you know, I have it alongside a lot of my videos now, just because it is, again, one that I want to show off, one that I want to just talk about, showcase. Just looking at this again, I need to kind of straighten it up in the box there. It's a little bit skew-iff, but anyway, I love this one, and it is the most expensive shirt in my collection. No surprises again. The hint was there all along. It was hidden in plain sight. But yeah, estimate of around £600. It could be a lot less, it could be a lot more on any given day. But yeah, very happy to have this one. That is the most expensive shirt in my collection. So there we go, guys. That was the top 10. The 10 most expensive football shirts in my collection. As you can see, I don't have the craziest collection in many ways. There are people online who have incredible match-worn collections and collections where one shirt is worth thousands, tens of thousands of pounds even. My collection is a bit more modest than that, but over time I've accumulated some of these kits. Some of them I did save up and buy, and maybe kind of saved up for months even to get. Other shirts were bargains, were pickups on eBay and places like that. I'd love to hear from you in the comments. What are the most expensive shirts in your collection? What is the gem, the jewel of your kit collection? Let me know in the comments. This is your license to show off, just to flex as much as you can. Do that in the comments by all means, and I'd love just to hear from you there. But thank you for watching, thank you for sticking with us for this top 10. As I said at the top of the video, make sure you subscribe because there's more of this sort of stuff to come. More videos, more live streams, and if you want to go a bit further and support me a bit further, I have a Patreon with a load of cool stuff that you can get as part of your support. Check that out in the link in the description. But that'll do it for today's video. Looking forward already to the next one. Looking forward to chatting to you a little bit more. Until next time, take care and all the best.